Okay, so this is a different kind of video than normally I would do here, but I thought it an interesting enough topic that I thought it deserved a video, just to see if there was any interest in this sort of thing. So if you're familiar at all with the history of Deism, you'll know that in 1793, one of the more influential books in Deism was written and published by Thomas Paine. It was called The Age of Reason. Considered by many, it's obviously not the first challenge of revealed religion, but one of the more interesting ways to discuss it. If you read it, you'll see that the objections are like, it's not really these in-depth, complicated objections. It's what's right in front of you when you're thinking about and looking at revealed religion, or especially reading the Bible. Most of his arguments still hold up. Some of them, as we've learned more about the history of the Bible and ways things were written and vocabulary, some of them didn't hold up later. But the majority of those objections that Paine wrote about, I feel, still hold up. And after The Age of Reason was published, it was actually, when it was published in England, Paine was sort of, his publishing partner in England was Thomas Williams, and sold about 2,000 copies before he was indicted by the British government for publishing The Age of Reason, and they confiscated his remaining pamphlets. If you're curious, he was sentenced to 1 year hard labor for publishing The Age of Reason in 1797. Thomas Paine wrote a very interesting letter to the judge over that trial, which, if you're interested at all in that history, it's a very, very, very interesting topic. But this is not The Age of Reason. In 1796, a man named Richard Watson, he was a doctor at Cambridge. He was also the Bishop of Landulph. He writes this, 1796. This is an original 1796 printing of his pamphlet, which was sort of aftermarket, bound in this old leather cover. So you'll see here by R. Watson, this is Richard Watson, Lord Bishop of Landulph, and Regius Professor of Divinity at the University of Cambridge. This is his apology for the Bible, in a series of letters addressed to Thomas Paine. And you see here, he spells it out further. Author of the book entitled The Age of Reason, Part the Second. And this is after, Part the Second is after Thomas Paine decides to go into his objections to the Bible in depth. The first part of The Age of Reason, he doesn't do that in great depth. Being an investigation of true and fabulous theology. Now, what I loved about what Watson did here is the wording. But before we get into that, there is another little kind of history lesson here. If you ever decide to look into collecting books of this age, there was a weird phenomenon that I completely understand why it didn't remain. It was abandoned right around 1800, right at the beginning of the 19th century. So if you look really closely here, let me do this. This word right here, this is the word society. And this word is the word esteem. And this word is the word against. They had a symbol which looked very much like an F. This is the word so. But the crossbar of the F does not extend to the right. This was called the long S. These letters appeared in the middle and at the beginning of words, but never at the end. You'll notice up here he's sort of quoting the title of The Age of Reason, so the S up there remains, but anywhere else you look, the only S's will be at the ends of words, if an S appears in the word. And it's at the end. Let's see, there's... here we go. Objections. See the S at the end of the word. Some of these words are very hard to understand unless you know that those weird-looking F's are actually S's. This is the word disseminate. So if you're looking into obtaining books of this age, if they have S's in them, it's very likely, excuse me, very likely not an original printing. But what I love here is Watson's language. Sorry. The language that Watson uses here in this opening paragraph is just beautiful. So, Sir, I have lately met with a book of yours entitled The Age of Reason, Part the Second, being an investigation of true and of fabulous theology. And I think it not inconsistent with my station, and the duty I owe to society, to trouble you and the world with some observations on so extraordinary a performance. Extraordinary I esteem it, not from any novelty in the objections which you have produced against revealed religion, for I find little or no novelty in them, but from the zeal with which you labor to disseminate your opinions, and from the confidence with which you esteem them true. I just love that opening. I love the way that that's written. If there's any interest in me going into any of the bishop's, Dr. Watson's objections or defenses of the Bible, I can do that if that's anything anybody would be interested in. Anyway, that's an original printing of the defense offered by the Bishop of Landolph, Dr. Richard Watson. If I ever do obtain an original copy of The Age of Reason, rest assured, I'll do a video. But anyway, if you thought this was interesting, just let me know.